National Chess Master R. Rats, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match between my video lessons group and CARPE DIEM. And this game was played on board 166, low 1600s versus low 1500s. Kind of an interesting game, and I think I can help with a number of suggestions here. Okay, we have the Caro-Kann advanced variation. It shouldn't give black any trouble at all. And it's proper to take this bishop, and even though it develops the white queen. And essentially, black has got full equality right here. There are no weaknesses in this position, no points white can attack. All black needs to do is carefully develop his pieces. And I think he was a little premature in his action, although it follows the book. One plan is to bring the queen to b6, and the idea is then put it on a6 of all places. And should white take, the knight takes back, and black is supporting a eventual c5 break. The other method is just develop. Okay, let me just show you. I don't know how much of this is booked, but I'll show you some of the themes here. We'll just assume white castles. Now this knight can go to f5, and that's a great square for the knight. It's got a pretty firm outpost. White doesn't want to weaken his position, and even if he does play g4, as I'm pointing here, black has the option to put the knight on h4. And white dare not try bishop g5 thinking he has a fork, because knight takes his check and removing the defender of the bishop. So black is doing fine here. And if black wants, black can advance h5 just to secure this knight on that square, and then or just put the bishop on e7, get castled, and that knight can always go to h4 if need be, if it's kicked. And then after completing the development, then black can start considering to play this move c5. It's not going anywhere, and I think black at least. Whoops, we don't want to do that. So I got to go back to here. Even though I think c5 is book and it's playable, I don't think it's quite yet the right move, because black has these other options, as I was explaining, these maneuvers or this one over here. And each one delays c5, and black will get it in later. But here, I definitely think black's next move is premature. He pushes c4, and I'll explain why in a moment. Queen b6 holds the pawn, attacks b2, and white pretty much has to spend a tempo with b3, and then black is able to develop another piece. And here, I'll just show you, rather than use the pointers. Okay, b3 is kind of forced. Now knight c6. And now black might be getting ready to take here. He's attacking the base of the pawn chain. So let's suppose white castles. This undermines, to some degree, it undermines e5. See, now you have to be careful here. You can't just go, well, maybe you can gobble that pawn because you're on the queen. You have to be wary of a discovery coming up by this knight. So maybe white has to take here, and then you can take back. Now the bishops come off. This helps white because this pawn on e5 is in the bishop's way, and black has a lot of pawns on light squares. But I think black has full equality here. White has a backward pawn on the open file. It's an even game. Black's going to continue on with some of these moves that I talked about earlier, or maybe even put the knight on g6, apply some pressure on e5. Black's got more targets in this position than white does. But when he plays c4, this changes the game radically. It changes the base of the white pawn chain, and this pawn isn't on c3 yet, and there's nothing making that pawn go to c3. Usually you don't want to make this push until that pawn's on c3, because then you have a potential break with pawn b4. But you're also forestalling the break by pushing c4 and locking up the center. Now black gets some development, but white starts chipping away at the pawn center. And here comes a check, and now the queen has to back up. And again, I think black is just being too quick with what he's doing, and a little pressure on e5, although f5 is not as potent as it once was. Black doesn't control the h4 square. This is more made to get this bishop out somehow. That move was played. Anyway, the bishop comes back, and white's putting off castling, but he needs to get castled. But so all of a sudden, white starts getting counterplay against the black pawns. And, you know, as I said, this pawn never got to c3, so black's strategy was a little premature because he never gets the pawn break b4. And now he has to use his queen as a defender and develop with tempo. And at this point, coming right up, white missed a clear advantage. Let me see, where was it? I think it was... Let me see, I'm back going the wrong direction. Let's see. The clear advantage is take the queen. Okay, now this pawn has to take. Now, all of a sudden comes this very nasty threat of knight c7 check. And because black has neglected castling, he's got to stop and deal with that. And there's also a threat on the pawn on a7. In addition to that, this pawn is now isolated, and white can anchor that pawn down and eventually surround and win it. And I think black is going to lose both his c4 pawn and his a7 pawn. So something has gone wrong in the black game here if all of a sudden he ended up with weaknesses, because just looking back to move 6, I was saying black has no weaknesses. White has two pieces developed, but black has no weaknesses. How does he have weaknesses? Well, he advanced his pawns too quickly. Anyway, white didn't take on c4. I think that was his mistake. And now it kind of becomes a little bit of a duel here. And eventually, here, white just steps right into a tactic. Bishop takes. Now, this puts an attack on the queen and an attack on the rook, and white must lose material. And now, let's see. Black is a piece ahead, but white has a rook hanging. So he saves his rook, and black just saves his bishop, and hey, black's up a piece. Okay, knight c3, and really the game is going to just wind up here. There's nothing much white can do here. Now the knight found a good outpost, and here comes that threat again. But now black's able to castle, and black just plays liquidation. Let's offer trades, and white can't do much about those. See, now this is forcing something off the board, and knight comes back, and now white steps into an annoying pin and gets himself in trouble and falls victim to a simple checkmate. Black to play and mate in 3 moves. Can you find it? Pause the video. Okay, you've resumed. Well, always check it might be mate. There's the first move. And now nothing's guarding the rook, so you eat that, and the knight must come back, and then we have a checkmate. So theoretically, black could have lost this. You know, I don't know how quick they were playing. They managed to get 34 moves in just over 2 weeks. So, you know, you tell me. Okay, so let me move on to the other game. I'll reset, flip the board because our man is white. And I don't think I mentioned the player names. It's aptp versus Gab's Archangel. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. And we have a King's Gambit declined. Now I guess it's accepted. And I really don't know all the theory here, but we can just say that the chances are balanced. Now there's problems on f7. Black needs to play d5, and he does. Keeps the bishop on the a2 f7 diagonal. I prefer that to I'm drawing the wrong arrow. I prefer this to giving a check. Okay, let's see what happens. Now, kind of interesting position here. Black is up a pawn, but he has nothing developed. White needs to develop his entire queen side, but at least white has a piece out and is castled. I would say the chances are pretty close to even here, with white having a development advantage. Okay, here comes a check. I don't think that really does much. Now black's generating a little activity here. Now black could even threaten a checkmate with queen e5, but white has resources g3. But you know, hey, maybe it's worth a look. Okay, how does white guard the mate? Well, the queen can't come to h5 to guard it. That loses the queen. That pretty much leaves g3. Maybe black has some attacking chances here. I was thinking white had a slight edge, but I don't know. I'd rather have, just looking at this. Well, no, there's a problem down here, f7. Darn it. I was looking at that. I was thinking black has the chances here, but I don't think black can afford to give her that pawn. That his king is going to be exposed. So, but what black should have done right here is just simple. Black needed a castle. And it's a game of chess. This may still come. I don't know. But white can get his pieces out. But castling gives black a reasonable chance. Instead, what he plays is he plays f6. And why is he playing f6? Well, he's stopping white from taking this. Okay? And he's keeping a diagonal open for his bishop. But the problem with f6 is now you can't castle. So black needs to think about getting castle queenside here quickly, because this center is about to get blasted open. And now black changes his mind and plays f5, so he's lost a tempo. What can I say? Now white comes up with a move. Black threatens mate. White eliminates the mate. And black still isn't castled. And white starts to try to blast the center open, which is a smart idea. Bishop e6. Okay, there was a swap. And now at least black can get castled. But white's breaking the center open. And I think white has a clear advantage if he just takes this pawn, because black can't take it. He runs into check. And, white's getting very active here. Let's see. I can put the bishop here. I could even put the bishop on d2. White's got a terrific game here. So white didn't miss his chance, and now the game kind of flirts on equality for a while. Because now black makes a mistake. He doesn't. There's a free pawn here. He needs to take it, and he doesn't take it. Take it with the queen. And, black's okay here. Got a pass pawn. White shouldn't be able to surround and win that. Black should be okay here. Okay. So he doesn't take. Puts his queen on c4. And now white gets the bishop out. He doesn't care so much about the possibility of losing some pawns, and that's good. Those taking pawns takes tempos. Now white offers a queen trade, kind of admitting he's not going to get an attack here, but black declines. And okay, fine, I'll give you a check if we're going to keep the queens on. The white queen is well centralized, but it's also possibly vulnerable to attack. Now white retreats the bishop, and black decides to go pawn hunting. Maybe a simple move would be rook a d8, but queen takes, and white's going to have to have an answer here, or black's going to maybe even get an advantage if white's not careful. Okay, pin the bishop, and now white gives up another pawn. So white's down a pawn now, but he got his rook active. But here's where black just goes wrong and throws the game away. maybe he seeks to try to exploit this pin by attacking it, but he just gets himself in a bunch of trouble because white has the strong move e5, attacking the rook and securing the bishop, and suddenly white's got a really good game here. Now there's a threat. There's not really a threat on g2. This queen is taking care of it, but this knight can be pinned, and that's exactly what white does. He pins the knight, and black goes and counterattacks the rook, threatening mate, but white just saves that. Attacks the knight again, and where does the knight go? The only square that's really free is b8, and I tend to think that's going to get black in trouble here. Rook c8 is coming, and black's days here are numbered. Okay, so never mind. I was thinking you could sack twice on d6, but you can't, to try to deflect the queen from g2, but this rook goes away from the threat on g2, so it doesn't work. Anyway, black just jettisons his knight. Well, he didn't go that way. He goes a different way. Jettisons the knight, and white doesn't care about it. He's going for the king. And here, one of these things I just don't understand happens in correspondence chess. How can you just hang a rook when you have 3 days to move? And now just a quick end, and there's a checkmate on the back rank. So not a whole lot of bad moves in there. Not a clear advantage for white other than when he missed. When he missed taking on f5, he missed his best chance for an advantage. But he definitely got one back when black got a little carried away. Should black have been gobbling those queenside pawns? Well, he was probably okay even after taking them both, but white was starting to get his pieces out. I can't really criticize either side too much, other than you got some potential play there and you didn't take it. Like in this game, just take that pawn on f5, aptp. In the other game, delay c5. You can always play it later, and if you follow some of those strategies next time, you should be okay. All right, I thank everyone for watching, and take care.